My sister announced a fake miscarriage at my engagement party with dried blood on her thighs. When I got pregnant and stole her spotlight, she threatened my baby, slashed my tires, and tried to kidnap my nephew from daycare. My sister Katie announced she'd miscarried her baby at my engagement party when she wasn't even pregnant. She didn't just clink her glass and announce it to steal the moment either. She actually came downstairs that morning with dried fake blood all down her thighs, sobbing about her baby being gone. I had literally seen her doom-scrolling IG reels 5 minutes ago. The thing was, she'd been telling everyone who was coming to my party for weeks that she and her fiancé were having a baby. So when she grabbed the microphone during my day and dropped to her knees crying about her loss, everyone bought it and my engagement became an afterthought. But that was nothing compared to the psychological warfare she'd wage when she actually got knocked up. Growing up, Katie had this gift for turning my happiness into her tragedy. At my 7th birthday sleepover, right as we lit the candles, she faked a severe allergic reaction to the cake frosting. She'd scratched her arms raw in the bathroom to sell it, gasping dramatically until Mom raced her to the ER. The party ended with my friends crying as they were sent home, and Katie miraculously recovered in the hospital parking lot. By high school, she'd turned sabotage into an art form. I made varsity soccer and scored the game-winning goal in our season opener, but Mom insisted I bring Katie to the team celebration dinner because she doesn't have anyone else. Just as my coach raised his glass to toast my goal, Katie pushed her plate away and announced she was exploring bulimia. Within seconds, my teammates abandoned their congratulations to gather around Katie while my winning goal became yesterday's news. Our parents never questioned any of it. Mom called Katie the sensitive youngest and made excuses that only enabled her behavior, but I wasn't Katie's only target. Our middle sister Chloe got it even worse. When Chloe started dating her now husband, Katie tried to ban him from family events because they'd gotten together during her engagement era, and it would dilute the bridal energy. She actually used those words. But after Chloe had kids, Katie hit a new low. She watched Chloe's son refuse a peanut butter cookie at Christmas and decided his allergy was fake. She called CPS the next morning, reporting that Chloe was medically abusing her child by inventing allergies for attention. This was literally 1 week after Chloe had taught her son how to use his EpiPen, following his second anaphylactic reaction at daycare. But Katie saved her worst performance for when Chloe needed her most. 3 weeks ago, after the year from hell that included job loss, a miscarriage, and her father-in-law's sudden death, Chloe's husband surprised her with a golden retriever puppy named Bess. For the first time in months, Chloe actually smiled. She sent a photo to our family group chat. "We are excited to announce a new member of our family. Meet Bess." The response was beautiful. For once, our family chat was pure joy, just everyone celebrating Chloe's happiness. Then Katie struck. 53 minutes later, I watched those 3 dots appear and disappear before she finally posted, "Well, congrats on the new dog. Speaking of new additions, baby M is due this November." The chat went from celebrating Chloe to worshiping Katie in seconds. 27 messages of congratulations flooded in, while Chloe's puppy announcement got buried like it never existed. Chloe posted a thumbs up and went silent. Later, she texted me. Of course she did. Just 4 words, but I knew exactly what she meant. Katie had stolen another moment, but this time from a sister still grieving her miscarriage 6 months later. That "well, congrats" wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. 2 days later, I stared at my positive pregnancy test. Instead of celebrating, I sat there calculating, because I knew Katie's deepest fear from when she'd gotten hammered at Christmas and told our cousin, "If anyone else gets pregnant when I am, it'll ruin everything. I can't share this." So I knew exactly how I was going to destroy her. I called Chloe with my news and my plan. She laughed until she wheezed when I explained what I wanted to do with her new puppy Bess. We spent an entire afternoon staging the perfect photo shoot, Bess holding my ultrasound in her mouth, wearing a big cousin bandana. The photos were so adorable they could have been a Hallmark card. For a week, I let Katie marinate in her stolen spotlight. She posted daily bump photos, threw herself a pregnancy reveal party, and made our mom drive her to baby stores every weekend. I liked every post, commented hearts and baby emojis, even volunteered to help paint her nursery. I played the perfect supportive sister while planning her downfall. Then I struck with surgical precision. I copied her announcement word for word. "Well, congrats on the new baby. Speaking of new additions, baby S is due this January." I attached the photo of Bess with the ultrasound. The chat detonated. But while everyone gushed over how creative and sweet it was to include Bess, Katie went silent. She finally managed one word: fun. Within hours, the family grapevine was on fire. Katie called everyone sobbing that I'd gotten pregnant out of spite, that I'd planned this to hurt her, that I was a sociopath who weaponized pregnancy. When Mom called, I braced for the usual lecture, but instead, I heard her snap at Katie in the background. "Can't you just be happy for your sister? This is huge." Even our mother had hit her limit. Katie cornered me weeks later, hissing that I'd ruined her pregnancy experience. I smiled and rubbed my belly. Now you know how Chloe felt, except she was grieving a miscarriage, not a stolen spotlight. Her face went white. "You beach, your baby won't survive. I'll make sure of that." She then walked away. The threat hung in the air between us like poison. I watched Katie's retreating figure, my hand instinctively moving to protect my stomach. My heart hammered against my ribs as her words echoed in my mind. She'd crossed every line before, but threatening my unborn child? This was different. I stood frozen in Mom's kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles turned white. Through the window, I watched Katie climb into her car and drive away, her face twisted with rage even from a distance. The family gathering continued in the living room, oblivious to what had just transpired. Chloe found me there 10 minutes later, still rooted to the same spot. She took one look at my face and immediately closed the kitchen door behind her. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My hands shook as I gestured helplessly toward the window. She guided me to a chair and knelt beside me. Her own pregnancy experience with Katie, making her instantly alert. I managed to whisper what Katie had said, watching Chloe's expression shift from concern to fury. She grabbed my hands, squeezing them tight as she processed the threat. We sat there in silence until Mom bustled in, chattering about dessert plans. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw us, her smile faltering. Chloe stood up smoothly, blocking Mom's view of my tear-stained face while I composed myself. She steered Mom back toward the door with some excuse about needing a few minutes. Once alone again, Chloe pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. She showed me the screen. She was documenting everything in her notes app, including the date, time, and exact words Katie had used. Her methodical response helped ground me, reminding me that I wasn't facing this alone. The drive home felt endless. My fiancé kept glancing at me with concern, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him yet. I needed to process what had happened first, to figure out what Katie might actually do. Her past manipulations had been cruel but calculated. This felt different, desperate, and unhinged. That night, sleep eluded me entirely. I lay in bed running through every interaction with Katie over the past weeks, looking for signs I'd missed. Her congratulations had been forced, her smiles never reaching her eyes. She'd made increasingly pointed comments about how some people tried to steal attention from others. By morning, I'd made a decision. I couldn't just wait for Katie to act on her threat. I needed to protect myself and my baby, but I had to be smart about it. Katie had always been the master manipulator, but she'd taught me well. I knew her patterns, her weaknesses, and most importantly, I knew she'd underestimated me. I called in sick to work and drove to Chloe's house. She answered the door already dressed, Bess dancing around her feet. Without a word, she grabbed her purse and followed me to the car. We'd been through enough of Katie's schemes to know when action was needed. Our first stop was the baby store where Katie had registered. The cheerful sales associate recognized us immediately from Katie's many visits. As we browsed, she mentioned how Katie had been in yesterday, updating her registry for the 4th time this week. She'd apparently spent hours agonizing over whether the nursery theme should be woodland creatures or safari animals. Chloe and I exchanged glances. Katie's obsession with perfection was her weakness. She needed everything to be exactly right, needed to control every narrative. We thanked the associate and left, a plan already forming between us. Over lunch, we strategized. Katie would expect me to retreat, to protect myself by staying quiet and avoiding family events. She'd count on fear keeping me in line while she played the victim, but I was done being reactive. If Katie wanted to escalate, I'd be ready. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I documented everything, saved every text, every social media post, every passive-aggressive comment in the family group chat. Chloe helped me create a timeline of Katie's past behavior, including the CPS call about her son's allergy. Meanwhile, Katie's social media became increasingly erratic. Why does Katie need everyone to know about her pregnancy within 53 minutes of Chloe sharing something happy? The timing feels so specific, like she was sitting there waiting for the perfect moment to drop her news. She posted multiple times a day about her pregnancy journey, but the captions grew stranger. She wrote long paragraphs about how true mothers protected their babies from toxic influences and how some people weren't meant to be parents. Mom called me 3 times that week, each conversation more strained than the last. Katie had been filling her ears with stories about how I was trying to sabotage her pregnancy experience. According to Katie, I was sending her anonymous hate mail and leaving threatening voicemails. Of course, I'd done neither. The breaking point came at our cousin's birthday dinner. I'd almost skipped it, but Chloe convinced me that avoiding family events would only fuel Katie's narrative. We arrived together, a united front, with our husbands providing additional support. Katie was already there, holding court at the head of the table. She'd positioned herself perfectly, close enough to our grandmother to garner sympathy, but with a clear view of the entrance to watch for my arrival. The moment she saw me, her hand flew to her stomach in an exaggerated protective gesture. The dinner started peacefully enough. Katie dominated conversation with nursery plans and baby name discussions, but I focused on my cousin and kept my interactions minimal. Then, halfway through the main course, Katie suddenly gasped and clutched her abdomen. The table erupted in concern as Katie moaned about cramping. She shot me a meaningful look across the table before doubling over. Our aunt rushed to her side while Mom frantically called Katie's fiancé. In the chaos, only Chloe and I noticed Katie's water glass was still full. She'd been pretending to sip from it all evening. As Katie was helped to the car, still performatively wincing, she managed to gasp loud enough for everyone to hear that the stress of family tensions was affecting her pregnancy. Several relatives turned to look at me with barely concealed accusation. I remained seated, calmly finishing my meal while the drama unfolded. Chloe squeezed my hand under the table, a silent reminder to stay strong. We both knew this was just the beginning of Katie's campaign. The family group chat exploded that night. Katie's fiancé posted updates from the hospital. All tests were normal, baby was fine, but Katie needed to avoid stress. The subtext was clear. Messages poured in offering support and expressing concern about what could have triggered such a scare. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I focused on my own doctor's appointment the next day. My blood pressure was slightly elevated, which my doctor attributed to stress. She gave me a stern lecture about protecting my health for the baby's sake. That evening, Chloe came over with a bottle of sparkling cider and a notebook. We spent hours mapping out Katie's escalation pattern. The fake emergency room visit was classic Katie, dramatic enough to garner sympathy, but vague enough to avoid medical scrutiny. What worried us was what would come next. Katie's schemes always intensified when they didn't achieve the desired result. She'd expected me to crumble, to apologize publicly for causing her stress. My silence was probably driving her crazy. Sure enough, 2 days later, I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper at work. The handwriting was disguised, but the message was clear. Some babies aren't meant to be born. Stop trying to compete. My hands trembled as I photographed it before carefully placing it in a plastic bag. I drove straight to Chloe's house. She read the note once, her face paling. Without a word, she added it to our growing documentation file. We both knew Katie had written it, but proving it would be another matter entirely. That weekend, Mom invited me over for coffee. The moment I walked in, I knew it was an ambush. Katie sat on the couch, tissues in hand, looking appropriately fragile. Mom gestured for me to sit, her expression stern. Katie launched into a tearful monologue about how my pregnancy announcement had triggered her anxiety, how she was struggling to bond with her baby because of the competition I'd created. She claimed I was sending her threatening messages and trying to turn the family against her. I sat quietly through it all, my hand resting protectively on my small bump. When she finally finished, I simply asked if she had any evidence of these messages. Katie's eyes flashed with anger before resuming their wounded expression. She claimed she'd deleted them because they were too upsetting. Mom looked between us, clearly torn. I could see her struggling to reconcile the daughter she thought she knew with the manipulation unfolding before her. For the first time, doubt crept into her expression when looking at Katie. I left without defending myself. There was no point arguing with Katie's fabrications, but I made sure to text Mom later, expressing my concern for Katie's mental health and suggesting she might benefit from talking to someone professional about her anxiety. The seed of doubt was planted. Over the next week, Katie's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She called family members at odd hours, crying about imagined slights. She posted cryptic messages on social media about toxic sisters and protecting what's mine. Each outburst chipped away at her credibility. Our relatives began reaching out to me privately, expressing concern about Katie's state of mind. I responded with nothing but compassion, suggesting that pregnancy hormones could be affecting her more than usual. Chloe and I continued building our file. We had screenshots, saved voicemails, and witness accounts of Katie's increasingly unstable behavior. We weren't sure what we'd need it for yet, but we knew Katie's pattern. She always eventually overplayed her hand. The next family gathering was our grandmother's birthday. I arrived early to help with setup, ensuring I was already integrated into the party when Katie arrived. She swept in late as usual, making a grand entrance that demanded attention. But something was different. Our aunts and uncles, who usually fawned over her, seemed more reserved. Mom watched her with a furrowed brow instead of immediate concern. Even our grandmother, who'd always had a soft spot for Katie, appeared wary. Katie noticed the shift immediately. Her usual tactics weren't landing the way they normally did. When she complained about her aching back, only her fiancé rushed to help. When she mentioned her doctor's concerns about stress, the family's response was politely minimal. Desperation crept into her behavior as the afternoon wore on. She tried increasingly dramatic tactics, claiming she felt faint, talking about mysterious symptoms, even suggesting she might need to go on bed rest. Each attempt fell flatter than the last. I maintained my distance, focusing on helping with food and chatting with relatives. Chloe stuck close, running interference whenever Katie tried to corner me. We'd learned that Katie's confrontations worked best without witnesses. As the party wound down, Katie made one last play. She stood up abruptly during dessert, clutching her stomach. But this time, instead of rushing to her aid, Mom simply asked if she needed to lie down in the guest room. The look of shock on Katie's face was almost comical. She'd pulled this move so many times, but without the panicked response she expected, it fell apart. She mumbled something about feeling better and sat back down, her face flushed with embarrassment. After the party, Chloe and I sat in my car, processing what we'd witnessed. Katie's power had always come from the family's unquestioning support. Without it, her manipulations were being exposed for what they were. But we both knew a cornered Katie was dangerous. She'd built her entire identity around being the family's special victim. Losing that status would make her desperate, and desperate people did desperate things. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. I know where you work. I know your schedule. That baby will never make it to term." My blood ran cold. This wasn't Katie's usual manipulation. This was a direct threat. Chloe read it over my shoulder, her face grim. We'd pushed Katie to a breaking point, and now we had to deal with the consequences. As I drove home that night, constantly checking my mirrors for Katie's car, I realized this was far from over. Katie had moved from manipulation to outright threats, and I had 5 more months of pregnancy to get through. But I wasn't the same person who'd frozen in Mom's kitchen just weeks ago. I had documentation, witnesses, and most importantly, I had allies. Katie had taught me well over the years how to recognize manipulation, how to document everything, how to build a case. She just never expected me to use those lessons against her. The morning after receiving Katie's threatening text, I woke to find my car tires slashed. 4 neat cuts, 1 in each tire, deliberate and calculated. My fiancé discovered them when he went to warm up the car for my prenatal appointment. He rushed back inside, his face pale, and I knew immediately this was Katie's work. While he called for a tow truck, I examined the damage more closely. The cuts were too precise to be random vandalism. Katie had always been meticulous in her cruelty. I photographed everything from multiple angles, adding the images to our growing file of evidence. Chloe arrived within 20 minutes of my call, bringing her husband and a rental car reservation already made. She'd anticipated something like this might happen. We'd studied Katie's patterns long enough to know she escalated when cornered. Physical property damage was new territory, but not surprising given her recent threats. At my prenatal appointment, my doctor expressed concern about my stress levels affecting the baby. My blood pressure had climbed higher since the last visit. She recommended modified bed rest and avoiding stressful situations. Katie's playing pregnancy performance art while making actual threats. That's quite the jump from fake cramps to real tire slashing. Nothing says I'm the victim here, like leaving evidence of